Okay, so let's go to challenges in training. Sumana ni siya ang atong giingon ganiha that we will also discuss in this lesson. And the training process bring with it a number of questions that the manager must answer. And these are the first one is training the solution to the problem. Are the goals of training clear and realistic? Is training a good investment? And the last one is, will the training work? Now, now, a fundamental objective of training is the elimination of elimination or improvement of performance problem. Now, we are here in number one, is training the solution of a problem. So, as I have said, now the fundamental objective of training is to eliminate or improve the performance problem. So if managers has identified particular performance problems, so makaingon ka karon nga, oh, I need to train these employees because I identify that they have performance problems. But the questions is, not all performance problems call for training. Diba? Do you agree? There are other factors that affects the performance of your employees. That's why you need to assess. You need to analyze. Diba? Performance deficits can have several causes, many of which are beyond the worker's control and would therefore not be affected by training. So, for example, unclear or conflicting requests, moral problems, poor quality materials cannot be improved through training. Kasi ba kung saan mag-train ang imong employees if you are providing raw materials that are of pure quality, poor, rather, quality, it would always result to a poor quality products. Diba? If you have, as managers, you have this unclear or conflicting requests, also may mahitabo sa mga employees, they will have performance that are also unclear and conflicting. Wa man kay ikaw nga nagsugo, ikaw nga kuan sa trabaho, wa man po'y klaro. So ang nagtrabaho, wa jud ay klaro. Personal problems of your employees that cannot be corrected with training. So, as I have said, now, you need to analyze, you need to assess whether or not the solution to these performance problems is training. Okay, if not, mo na yung ganiha. Training costs a lot, and then you are doing it for just um, compliance purposes, although dili siya necessary actually to correct the performance problems, but you are doing it because that's the trends or that's what the dollar demands. So they are na wrong because you're spending on something that has no return on the organization. Okay. The second one is, are the goals clear and realistic? Oh, kani usasad ni. Now, to be successful, a training program must have a clearly stated and realistic goals. Clearly stated and realistic goals. Now, these goals will guide the program's content and determine the criteria by which its effectiveness will be judged. For example, now, management cannot realistically expect that in one training session your workforce would become a computer expert. Lisod gyud ng computer sabton, no? No, such an expectation of the management guarantees failure because the goal is unattainable. So unless the goals are clearly articulated before training program are set up, the organization is likely to find itself training employees for the wrong reasons and toward the wrong ends. Sumana siya. Another is Is training a good investment? No? Uh, I have mentioned before, no, at the introductory phase of this video, that training costs a lot. It takes a portion, no, of your finances in the of the finances of the organization. Now the question is it a good investment? Now, although training can be expensive, it can also pay off, no, in a more capable and loyal workers. So I guess, no, it's safe for us to say that it is a good investment. Of course, because it will enhance the skills of your workforce, or in the end, no, you will have one in your workforce that you can develop into a future leader someday. So it is a good investment. No? An international survey, according to an international survey of more than 5,000 organizations in 26 countries, examined the relationship between firms' investment in training and their profitability. So that's a relationship. Uh, and the last one is, will training work? Now, designing designing effective training remains as much as art as science, because no single type of training has proved most effective overall. For example, an organizational culture that supports change, learning, and improvement can be a more important determinant of a training program's effectiveness than any aspect of the program itself. So, if a particular organization has this culture, I hope you remember the organizational culture that I have discussed, no, in previous lecture. So if an organization has a culture that supports change, learning, and improvement, usa na siya. So determinant factor that you can look to in order to um, say that training could be effective, or it will work. Participants, on the other hand, who view training solely as a day away from work are unlikely to benefit much from the experience. So, matter pod, no? What is the culture present in your organization? Does the training, no, support this particular culture? So, usa na sa imong tan-awon. Finally, no, training will work. Training will not work unless it is related to the organizational goals. So, with all this that we have discussed, how we can assure that a training program would be really effective, will be a waste of time if this is not related to organizational goals. Bottom line, it would always end up, it would always end up, di na mo kasi ka maumustorya, oy. My God. So it would always end up, no, for your training to be related to your organizational goals. Of course. Asa man lagi dahil mo na i-pattern ang imong training? What is the purpose of conducting training if it is not meant to reach your organizational goals? Diba? A well-designed training program flows from the company's strategic goals, while a poorly designed one has no relationship, or even worse, is at cross purpose with those goals. Now, it is the manager's responsibility to ensure that training is linked with the organizational goals. So, imo nang responsibility. If the training is not linked with organizational goals, then it is your failure. Okay? Okay, let's go to managing the process. So, how do you manage a training process? Now, poor, inappropriate, or inadequate training can be a source of frustration for everyone involved. Of course, who would want a training that are poorly designed, inappropriate on the work or on the employees that are being trained, inadequate training, inadequate venue, foods, usabi na ayaw gid na ninyo kalimte, no? Iasa man ang nindot kayo inyong training goals, nindot kayo inyong venue, pero gipas mo ninyo yung mga employees. Ganahan pa dahil na mo participate sa mga activities sa training kung gigotom. I have had um, it's just a story from a friend, who is a manager in a hotel, no. So mo na nag-train sila og mga new employees. So they hire a resource person, and then mo na tagaan ako usa ka bukpan, usa ka buk candy. Effective pa day ang training. So all this wonderfully crafted training programs is just a waste of time. So dapat na adjud na ingredients tanan. Para ra punas magluto, kuwangan nimo usa ka ingredients, wa na lami imong niluto. Okay? To maximize the benefits of training, managers must closely monitor the training process. Now we have here shown now the training process consists of 3 phases. The first one is the needs assessment. This one. Now, this is what we call needs assessment phase. The second is the development and conduct of training phase. And of course, the third one is the evaluation. Now, the needs assessment phase, this one, hindi na siya mo-highlight. Mo-highlight ba? Nag-pencil. Nagbago na talaga sa X-Recorder. I don't like him anymore. Anyway, going back, in the needs assessment, it involves identifying the problem or needs that a training must address. So, as I have mentioned before, you need to analyze now if the problem or the cause of the performance problem that really needs training. No? So, mo na training needs assessment or training needs analysis. You may analyze, no? Mo nang tan-awon. In the development and conduct phase, the most appropriate type of training is designed and offered to the workforce, while in the evaluation, the training program's effectiveness is assessed. Now in the pay. Now in most kanang activity program, there is always this evaluation nga naman in order to assess whether or not what you did was effective, so you can rectify for future performance or future conduct. Samo na siya. Now, in large organizations, surveys of workers and inputs of managers are very important for determining the training that is needed. So, in big organizations, kanang situations, they rely on surveys of workers and the input of managers in order to identify whether or not a particular training is necessary. But In the actual training, kani ikaduha nga phase, is usually provided by either the organization's own training department or an external resource, such as a firm or local university. So, it nara ninjo. So, as sa akong story ganiha, sa kadahong friend, no? So, they hire resource or they hire trainers, no? So, kaning development and conduct of training, pwede nga ang injura mismo, no, in the organization will train your employees, or you can hire from the outside. And of course, the evaluation, no? So, you need to evaluate in order to identify if the whole program is effective. Kaya na may sakto lagi, you were able to identify that you need to train on this particular area. But during the implementation or during the conduct, wa na pod nagkadimao. So that's why you need to evaluate. In everything, you need to evaluate. Diba? No? In business, you need to evaluate. Okay? Okay. So, let's go deeper to this. Esa naman siguro ko din di. Tara. Levels of needs assessment. Okay. So, we have 3. The organizational analysis, the task analysis, and the person analysis. Now, this is what we call the levels of needs assessment. Organizational analysis examines broad factors such as the organization's culture, mission, business climate, long and short-term goals, and structure. Its purpose is to identify both overall organization needs and the level of support for training. Some of the key issues to be addressed at the organizational level of analysis are the external environment in the organization's goals and values. So when you say organizational analysis, it pertains to the entire organization. It now involves the culture, the mission, business climate, long and short-term goals. So, tanan na. So, when you assess the need, assess ko need. So, when you assess the need for training on the organizational level, so, tanan na imong i-assess. What the, more by broad prospects, what does the organization need, no? Unsa nga area, no, in the organization that needs training. Unsay kinahanglan ani nga particular as a whole organization. Unsay kinahanglan nga training ani niya in order to improve, no, di ba? Ingon ta, the training is an elimination of performance problems. So, tanaw nimo as a whole, as an organization, unsay performance problem aning organization, so that you are going to conduct particular training in order to eliminate this performance problem of the organization. Organization, broad prospect. Okay?